Greetings from Grandview. It is time for your Tuesday question of the week, and I'm Brother Marcus Blair. And today we're going to look at why I personally study from and preach from the New King James Version of the Bible. I love the old King James, there's no doubt. And the first church that I ever pastored, they were primarily older folks, and they wanted to hear it in the King James. They wanted me to preach from the King James because it has that certain poetry to it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth. You know, they had heard that their entire lives, and that's what they wanted. So I became familiar with the New King James Version way back in the year 2000. And over the years, I've used a lot of different Bible translations, but I have come back around to the New King James. And sometimes people wonder, well, why is there a New King James when we have the old one? And first of all, the New King James Version uses the same Greek text that the King James Version comes from. You know, the Bible, the New Testament was originally in Greek, and so the King James uses the Greek, and then the New King James uses that same manuscript and translates it in a way that retains the beauty and the majesty, kind of the poetry of the King James Version, while making just a few key changes. So what the New King James Version does is it takes the "ith" off the end of words. Instead of "ye," you will see "you." And instead of "thee," "thou," "thy," and "thine," which we no longer use, it's "you" and "yours." So it simplifies those things and also takes some words that have fallen out of use in English and modernizes them just a little bit. One that I noticed the other day, our men's group is studying through the book of James, and there's a verse in the first chapter of James that says that we need to not have superfluity of naughtiness, which is a very King James way of saying what the New King James says, which is overflow of wickedness. So where the King James might confuse somebody, the New King James updates just a bit while retaining the old style and the old rhythm of the King James Version. Take Psalm 42, for example. Many of us are familiar with Psalm 42 and how it states, "As the hart panteth for the water brooks, so my soul longeth after thee, O God." But if you look at it in the New King James Version, it becomes, "As the deer pants for the water brooks, so pants my soul for you, O God." Which you can see there, the New King James has updated the word "hart," H-A-R-T, to "deer." Hart was an old, Middle English word for deer that almost no one says anymore. And so I think it's wonderful that we can modernize it just that much, just to eliminate "thee," "thou," "thy," and "thine." Take the "ith," like "panteth," take that off the end of the words and update some words that we simply no longer say anymore. In this way, I find the New King James Version to be the perfect bridge between old and new. You know, you have the ancient authority and the sound of the King James Version with just enough modernization that even the youngest believer in the Lord can understand it readily. So that's one of the greatest things about it to me. Secondly, if you have a New King James Version, look at the copyright page. Almost no one ever reads the copyright page, but if you look closely, you will see that the New King James Version is copyright 1982. And I like that, not just because I enjoy the 80s, but because this version of the Bible has never had an update. And it does not need an update. I hope that it always says copyright 1982, because that indicates that this Bible translation was made pre-AI. It was made in an era before people wanted to change gender pronouns, things of that nature that are creeping into some of your more modern translations of the Bible. They do get updated. The ESV, for example, I bought a new ESV a few years ago to use, and in the box with it was a sheet that said, here's all the things that need to be changed. And so I want that changeless, old school version of the Bible. And 1982, it's never been changed since then. And finally, of course, as I said in my last video, and I'll put a link to that below, as I said in my last video, the King James Version and the New King James Version both go from a Greek manuscript that includes many verses that a lot of the modern translations are cutting out, which ought to alarm anybody. And they're doing it for reasons that have to do with what they feel like is modern scholarship, but to me, it just looks like liberal pollution. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with the New King James for now. I think that it's the strongest translation out there, and I would advise any of our members here at Grandview or anybody watching that it's the perfect bridge between the old school, majestic tone of the King James Version and modernizes just enough that a new believer or someone who is not familiar with Elizabethan English can truly understand. And really, that is the best Bible, is the one you're actually going to read, and read a lot. Okay? God bless you. God loves you, and your pastor does too.